Scientists discover a new species lurking in the depths of the Southern Ocean. This is the Antarctic strawberry feather star. Weird looking thing, isn't it? Researchers describe it as pretty large with 20 arms.
The animal kingdom is a world of endless surprises, and we've only scratched the surface. With millions of species in the wild, scientists are uncovering new terrifying creatures every single day. Now, what would you think of a shark that hunts by using electrical signals? Or a creature with a transparent natural face shield, almost like diver's mask?
Vampire squid, first, isn't a vampire. Second, isn't a squid.
What other incredible and fearsome species could be hiding out there waiting to be discovered? To satisfy your curiosity, we've gathered 15 terrifying species that shocked the world. The stonefish. What if a harmless-looking rock beneath your feet turned out to be a predator waiting to strike? That's exactly the kind of day the stonefish could ruin, because it's a master of disguise. If you're ever swimming in the tropical waters of the Indo-Pacific, be extra cautious about where you step. This master of disguise looks like just another rock on the ocean floor, but trust us, it's far from harmless. Stonefish love hanging out in the rocky or muddy bottoms of marine habitats. They're masters of camouflage, with their bodies usually a mix of brown, orange, yellow, or red patches, and textured to blend in perfectly with rocks or coral.
There it is, not a stone, but a stonefish. What an amazing beast. It really does look like a piece of rock.
You could easily swim right past one without even realizing it's there. They use this camouflage to their advantage while hunting, waiting patiently for fish to swim by before striking and swallowing their prey in one swift move.
First up is the stonefish, a killer who hides in plain sight with sharp spines containing enough venom to kill a person.
The stonefish has 13 venomous spines along its back, and even the slightest brush against them can release a venom that's nothing to laugh about. If you happen to step on one, prepare for a seriously painful sting that demands immediate medical attention. The venom can lead to swelling, intense pain, tissue damage, and even cardiac arrest. Now, it's totally normal to be a little worried about accidentally getting too close to one of the most venomous fish out there. The good news is that stonefish mostly use their spines to defend themselves, not to attack. So they're not really looking to cause any trouble unless they feel threatened. So if you're venturing into waters where these bad boys hang out, make sure to wear shoes, watch where you step, and hope for the best. On the other hand, if the stonefish's camouflage has you second-guessing where you step in the ocean, just wait until you encounter a newly discovered lizard, so massive and intimidating that stepping on a stonefish might start to seem like no big deal.
What makes stonefish even more dangerous is that they can quite happily stay out of water.
Venomous bitatawa. The Philippines' northern Sierra Madre forests hold a secret, and it's not for the faint of heart. It's a giant monitor lizard, and it's not something you would want to run into in the wild. This terrifying creature roams the forests of the northern Sierra Madre on the coast of Luzon, Philippines, and at the moment, it's the only place on Earth where you can find it. Now, these lizards can grow up to 6 feet 7 inches long and can weigh a staggering 33 pounds. With dark blue and black coloring and bright yellow-green dots scattered across their bodies, they're hard to miss. Now, the tail is a wild blend of black and green stripes, but here's the twist. Unlike most monitor lizards that hunt anything that moves, this one actually feeds on fruit. This terrifying lizard is one of only 3 known species of fruit-eating monitor lizards. It feasts mostly on the fruit of the pandan and canarium trees, playing a crucial role in its ecosystem. By munching on the fruits and spreading the seeds in its poop, it helps these trees survive and thrive. But don't be fooled. When pushed to the edge, these monsters will add a few insects to their diet, though they won't be hunting down anything bigger anytime soon. Still, the thought of a 6-foot lizard roaming around is enough to send chills down our spine. And just when you thought nothing could be as freaky as this giant lizard, here comes a fish that's small in size but big on terror. The fangtooth fish. Not all fish are as friendly as they seem, and the fangtooth fish proves it with its chilling, monster-like appearance. The fangtooth fish definitely earns its name, with its terrifying sharp fangs. This fish looks like something straight out of a horror movie. But before you start panicking, here's the good news. Despite its menacing appearance, the fangtooth fish is actually pretty small, only growing up to about 6 inches when fully grown. You're also not likely to run into one, even if you were to venture deep into the ocean. These fish live at extreme depths, anywhere from 1,600 to 16,000 feet below the surface, so it's safe to say they're not going to pop up in your backyard pool. They stay pretty deep during the day and only come up to shallower waters at night to hunt for food. While their fangs are pretty gnarly, the fangtooth fish isn't about to go around attacking humans. It's more likely to give you a jump scare if you ever did see one. Living in such deep waters means the fangtooth fish doesn't rely on its eyesight, which is actually pretty poor. Instead, it has an incredibly advanced system for detecting movement and vibrations in the water, allowing it to find and snatch up prey even if it can't see it clearly. And those fangs, they're not just for show, they're deadly. To prevent its own fangs from poking a hole in its brain when it chomps down, the fangtooth fish has a special set of pouches in its head to safely house those sharp teeth. Just when you think you've seen the ocean's creepiest creature, another one drifts through the depths like a ghost, silently waiting for its moment to shock you. Chimeras, the ghost sharks. There's a shark out there that's not really a shark at all, but its ghostly appearance and deep-sea lifestyle make it one of the ocean's creepiest creatures. Chimeras might look like something straight out of a nightmare, making them one terrifying creature to come across. With their shark-like bodies, eerie, bulbous snouts, and long, whip-like tails, they have a haunting appearance that's earned them their ghost shark nickname. Their large pectoral fins make them look like they're gliding or flying through the water, adding to the ghostly vibe. But it's not just their looks that are intimidating. These fish are equipped with venomous spines on their dorsal fins, which they can use for defense if threatened. And then there's their unique set of teeth. Instead of the sharp, shredding teeth of a typical predator, chimeras have massive permanent tooth plates that keep growing throughout their life. These are designed for crushing and grinding prey. Pretty scary when we think about it, especially since their teeth are toughened with fluorapatite, an incredibly hard material. It's like having jaws built to crush anything in their path, all while they silently glide through the deep. Plus, their long sensory snout is capable of detecting electrical signals, which makes them expert hunters in the dark, deep waters where they mostly live. With all these features combined, the chimera's blend of otherworldly looks and dangerous adaptations definitely make it a creature worthy of a horror movie. While one terrifying creature hides in the deep, another is surprising scientists on land with strange features that could change what we know about ancient reptiles. Genus Acalinus. There's a snake out there that's almost completely blind, has glowing scales, and could change everything we know about ancient reptiles. Back in 2020, deep in the forests of northern Vietnam, a team of scientists made a mind-blowing discovery. Meet genus Acalinus, a brand new species of super shiny snake. This terrifying find belongs to a group known as odd-scaled snakes.
On the way back down, we came across this beautiful little odd-scaled snake.
Because unlike most snakes, their scales don't overlap. Instead, they leave patches of skin exposed, which may help them navigate their underground world. What's even crazier, this snake is almost blind. Its eyes can't handle bright light since it spends its days buried under leaf litter or soil. The discovery happened during a biodiversity survey in 2019, as researchers explored the Ha Giang province in Vietnam. The snake's scales shimmer in shades of blue and green, almost glowing, making it not only visually stunning, but also a fascinating discovery for scientists. While one creature is quietly rewriting the rules of what we thought we knew about reptiles, an underwater vampire is waiting in the depths, ready to creep you out. Vampire squid. Deep in the dark, cold waters of the ocean lives a creature that's neither a squid nor an octopus, but is still spooky enough to be called the vampire squid. This creature is super unique in its own right.
Pretty spooky and special, and indeed they are.
You'll find them hanging out in tropical and temperate waters around the world, but they live pretty deep, between 2,000 and 3,000 feet below the surface. However, vampire squids have 8 arms, but don't have the feeding tentacles like octopuses do. Instead, they use 2 retractable filaments to catch their food. These filaments are covered in tiny hairs, packed with sensory cells, which help them sense and grab their prey. But here's where it gets interesting. These creatures are totally different from your typical squid or octopus. Sadly, they're currently endangered, mostly because of pollution and the destruction of their habitats. So you're probably wondering, why the spooky name?
Its scientific name is Vampiroteuthis infernalis, which is really a cool sounding name.
What makes this creature so terrifying? First off, their dark red or black color, paired with their cape-like webbing between the arms, gives off some seriously creepy vampiric look. On top of that, those bright red eyes are like something from a very terrible nightmare. But surprisingly, while the name makes it sound like this squid's out there draining blood, it's actually pretty harmless. Instead of changing color or releasing ink like other squids when it's threatened, the vampire squid ejects a sticky glowing mucus to confuse any predators. No blood-sucking or immortality involved, so don't worry. It's a fascinating creature with a spooky look, but it's mostly minding its own business, just trying to survive in a world that's getting tougher for them by the day. You thought the ocean's mysteries were enough? Well, there's a weird-looking frog that spends its whole life living underground. The purple frog. If you thought frogs were all about hopping and croaking, wait till you meet the purple frog, a creature that spends most of its life hidden underground. Meet the purple frog, but don't let its name fool you. It's not exactly purple, more like a weird, fleshy, wet potato you wouldn't want to bump into while you're trying to sleep. Also known as the pig-nosed frog because of its, well, pig-like snout, this chubby little guy is nothing like any other frog you've ever seen. This frog has evolved in a unique way in the western part of India, making it pretty rare. It spends most of its life buried underground, which is why it's so hard to spot. Now here's where it gets even cooler and terrifying at the same time. This little underground dweller has a special trick up its sleeve to survive the storms and floods in its home. When it's still a tadpole, it has this awesome sucker-like mouth that helps it latch onto rocks so it doesn't get swept away in the water. But there's a surprising consequence. The purple frog's unique ability has given it a mystical status. Unfortunately, this has put the frog in danger. Some people catch and use them as good luck charms, believing they can ward off storms. So, imagine spending your whole life hiding underground, only to have your pig-nosed self turned into jewelry. After meeting a frog that spends most of its life buried underground, let's head up to the treetops, where scientists recently uncovered an entirely new monkey species. Titi monkeys. Did you know that only a few years ago, a completely new species of monkey was discovered in one of the most remote locations on Earth? Back in 2011, something pretty wild happened in the Amazon rainforest of southern Brazil. A naturist was out there exploring when he stumbled upon a monkey he had never seen before. Turns out, scientists had never come across a monkey quite like this one either. The species was totally new to everyone. This particular monkey is a Titi monkey, but it has some unique features. Its tail is a striking reddish-orange color, almost like a blazing fire. There is also this light gray stripe running down its forehead, plus some ochre-colored sideburns that give it a very distinctive look. After studying it, scientists realized that this monkey was different from the others in its family, so they decided to name it Milton's Titi monkey, or the fire-tailed Titi monkey. Titi monkeys are pretty territorial and love their family time. They usually live in small groups, just the parents and their kids, typically around 2 to 7 monkeys in total. When it comes to protecting their space, they'll shout and chase off any intruders, but they're not big on fighting. Instead, they rely a lot on grooming and communicating to keep the group working together. You'll often catch them just hanging out in pairs, tails all tangled up while they rest or nap. Their diet is mostly fruit, but they're not picky. They'll also munch on leaves, flowers, insects, bird eggs, and even small animals when they get the chance. Titis are total one-man or one-woman monkeys. When they mate, it's for life. After about 5 months, the female has a baby, usually just one, though twins are super rare. Only about 1.4% of captive Titi monkeys have twins. Sadly, the second baby usually doesn't make it, but there have been a few cases where other groups took in the baby, showing that with the right support, twins might actually survive. And here's the interesting part. The fathers are very involved. They carry the baby around and only pass it to the mother for nursing, just the same way we humans do. As for their lifespan, Titi monkeys in the wild can live up to about 12 years, but in captivity, some have been known to live past 25. Now, the Titi monkey family already has more than 30 known species living in the rainforests of South America. But thanks to this discovery, there's one more added to the list. While the jungles of Brazil hide amazing animals like the firetail monkey, did you know there's a worm in the ocean that feasts on bones? Osedax bone-eating worm. You've heard of zombies taking over the world, but have you ever heard of zombie worms ruling the ocean floor? Meet the Osedax worm, also known as the zombie worm, a creature that's just as creepy as its nickname suggests. The zombie worm was first discovered in 2002 in Monterey Bay, California, and it's since become a prime example of the ocean's weird and terrifying creatures. This creature is one of nature's strangest recyclers, living deep in the ocean and feeding on the bones of dead marine animals. These worms can be found at depths of nearly 2,900 meters, where they feast on the remains of dead whales that have sunk to the ocean floor. What's even more fascinating and a little unsettling is how the zombie worm gets its food. It doesn't just nibble at the bones, it actually bores into them using a unique physiology. The worms create tiny holes in the bones to get at the lipids inside and feed on the collagen. These holes also serve as a hiding spot from predators, because as you might imagine, other animals are also attracted to the massive whale carcasses. To break into the bones, the worm uses acid, with a little help from the bacteria living in its root-like structures. And just so you know, this worm doesn't even have a mouth or stomach. Instead, it relies entirely on these bacteria for its nutrients, making it a true partnership of nature. In the zombie worm world, females totally rule. They attach themselves to bones and host tons of microscopic males inside their tubes. These tiny males don't do much besides fertilize the eggs.
Females typically produce hundreds of eggs daily. A large colony of osedax, considering of thousands of individuals,
ensuring that the species keeps thriving in the deep sea. However, these worms have been on Earth for millions of years. Amazingly, they fed on giant sea reptiles that lived a long time ago. Now let's talk about another animal with a jaw that can crush and a built-in radar system that helps it hunt. Chinese salamander. What creature can grow and live for over a century and hunt in complete darkness? The answer is the Chinese giant salamander. It's the largest living amphibian in the world.
How cool is that? Look at the size of the salamander. Wow, that is amazing.
Fun fact is, there are actually 3 types of these massive salamanders.
To identify 2 new salamander species from 3 river systems and mountain ranges in China.
There's the Chinese one, the Japanese giant salamander, and the North American hellbender. But when it comes to size, the Chinese giant salamander truly stands out. These creatures can grow up to an impressive 6 feet in length and may live as long as humans, or even longer. You'll mostly find them in the rocky mountain rivers of China, where they feast on fish, frogs, insects, shellfish, and even smaller salamanders. These creatures live their whole lives underwater, but here's the twist: they don't have gills. Instead, they breathe through their skin, which is pretty clever. Their skin also helps them sense their prey. Since they don't have the best eyesight, they rely on sensory nodes that run from their head to their tail. These nodes can detect vibrations in the water, so they don't even need light to hunt, making them expert nocturnal predators. What makes them even more terrifying, though, is their powerful bite. The Chinese giant salamander catches its prey using a one-sided bite, which helps it apply extra force to the front of its mouth where the prey is. Once it secures its prey, it uses its powerful bite to grip and dispatch its meal, whether on land or in water. The bite force of an adult Chinese giant salamander is way stronger than that of a younger one because of differences in their skull structure. Their esophagus is made up of 4 layers, including a strong muscle layer that helps push food down to the stomach. The outer layer of the esophagus contains special cells that help move mucus across its surface, keeping it lubricated and reducing friction, which is especially important when swallowing large prey like whole crabs. Unfortunately, despite ongoing efforts to protect and increase their populations, these ancient creatures remain endangered. There's a long way to go before their numbers are stable again in their natural habitats in China's mountain rivers. Now it's time for today's subscriber pick. The image shows what appears to be a massive gorilla-like beast wandering in the depths of the jungle. Scientists are claiming this might be a completely new species, something that was thought to only exist in myths. It's a pretty big deal, but there's a catch. No one seems to know exactly where it was taken, and there are no solid news stories to back it up. No footage, no interviews, just the picture. It's kind of like one of those mysteries that keeps you up at night, wondering what's real and what's just a clever internet trick. So what do you think? Is this a groundbreaking discovery, or is someone just pulling our legs? Let's know your thoughts in the comments. Litoria Pinocchio. With a nose that could rival Pinocchio's, the Pinocchio frog is one of nature's most unusual creatures.
Its long, pointy nose makes it look like something from a fairy tale, but this feature is all natural.
hiding in the remote mountains of Papua, Indonesia.
A fascinating creature living in the hidden FEA mountains of Papua, Indonesia.
The Pinocchio frog is a truly fascinating creature that calls the remote mountains of Papua, Indonesia, its home. Discovered in 2008 during a Conservation International expedition, this frog gets its name from its long, pointy nose, which instantly brings to mind the famous puppet Pinocchio. But this quirky nose isn't just for show. It actually plays a role in the frog's behavior. When males call out, the nose stands upright, but when they're at rest, it droops. This unique feature might be linked to attracting mates or even helping them navigate through the diverse rainforest ecosystems. While scientists first spotted this frog in 2008, it wasn't until 2019 that it was officially recognized and described. As part of the tree frog family, the Pinocchio frog sports a mix of green, brown, and yellow colors, and it spends most of its time high up in the treetops of its dense forest home. The region it inhabits is incredibly remote and has earned a reputation for its incredible biodiversity. In fact, research in the area has uncovered several new species that were previously unknown. Because this rainforest is so isolated, many of its species have evolved in isolation from others, making it a truly unique and vital ecosystem. After learning about the wild nose of the Pinocchio frog, let's head underwater to meet a special kind of eel, whose feeding style will blow your mind. The gulper eel. The gulper eel, also known as the pelican eel, is definitely one of the most terrifying and pretty creepy creatures you might come across in the deep sea. It kind of looks like your standard eel, long, slim, and not much else going on. It's related to other deep-sea eels, like the ugly old moray, but it's a bit different. Gulper eels are typically black in color, and while they're not huge compared to some other eel species, they're still pretty fascinating. They usually grow to about 2 to 3 feet long. These creatures live in the deep ocean, hanging out anywhere between 1,600 and 10,000 feet below the surface. But what really makes them stand out, and honestly a little scary, is their massive balloon-like mouth. The gulper eel can expand its mouth to an enormous size, allowing it to gulp down prey. Once it's swallowed its meal, the eel deflates its mouth and goes back to looking like a regular old eel again. Not a whole lot is known about how gulper eels reproduce, but here's what we do know. Like other eels, when gulper eels are born, they start out as leptocephalous, which means they're super thin and transparent. When they're in this stage, they have tiny body organs and no red blood cells. As they grow, the males undergo some interesting changes, like bigger olfactory organs, which is the part that helps them smell, and the degeneration of their teeth and jaws. The males also develop clear reproductive organs, with the testes taking up most of the space in their stomach cavity, which actually seems to shrink. The females, on the other hand, don't change much as they mature. Those large olfactory organs in the males suggest they might use pheromones to track down potential mates. Many researchers think gulper eels die shortly after reproducing. If the gulper eel's terrifying mouth didn't freak you out enough, wait until you hear about another deep-sea creature that might just be a lot closer to us than we think. Deep-sea blobs. Ever heard of a deep-sea blob that's actually kind of related to humans? Say hello to comb jellies, or ctenophores. These creatures are offering scientists a fresh look at evolution. Now you might be thinking, what's so special about a jellyfish-like blob? Well, it turns out these creatures are giving scientists some mind-blowing insights into how animals, including humans, evolved. It's honestly pretty wild, but these strange little critters are actually slightly related to us. What makes them extra interesting is how they can help researchers study how brains, or in their case, nerve cells, developed in the first place. They don't have a brain like we do, but their nerve cells are all connected in a web-like network throughout their bodies. The surprising part is, even though they resemble jellyfish, comb jellies aren't the same species. They've evolved in completely different ways, which is why studying them helps scientists figure out how life began. But here's where it gets even more interesting. There's a crazy phenomenon happening right now. While climate change is messing up life for a lot of species, comb jellies seem to be thriving. In fact, they're doing so well that they're able to form massive blooms in certain areas, and when that happens, they completely take over and start wiping out other organisms. From brainless blobs to fish with glowing dome-shaped heads, the ocean is home to some seriously weird creatures, and this next one is definitely among the most intriguing. With a face protected by a natural shield, Barreleye. Somewhere in the pitch-black depths, a fish with an unusual head and glowing secrets swims silently. This fish definitely looks like something out of a science fiction movie, and honestly, the deeper we explore the ocean, the weirder the creatures get. The barreleye fish is one of the oddest to be found in the deep sea. With its transparent, dome-shaped head, it looks like it's straight out of a sci-fi flick. But what's really creepy is its tube-shaped eyes, which are super sensitive and hidden beneath a green, liquid-filled shield. This shield helps the fish spot prey above them, even when they're swimming in the pitch-black darkness of the deep ocean. The barreleye also has these nostrils that look like sad eyes, along with a pointy snout and a tiny mouth. They have flat, elongated fins that help them move through the water by just floating there motionless. And if that wasn't enough, they also have glowing organs scattered throughout their bodies, giving them a mysterious, otherworldly glow in the dark depths. While the barreleye might not win any beauty contests, it's hard to deny how perfectly adapted it is to its deep-sea life. In fact, it might just be one of the best-equipped fish to thrive down there. Unlike many deep-dwelling creatures that have lost their eyesight, the barreleye has actually honed its vision to work in the gloom of the ocean's depths. This gives it a serious edge when it comes to hunting and feeding, and possibly makes it a pretty innovative predator in its own right. From glowing fish in the ocean to glowing eyes in the forest, the next creature we're talking about is so tiny it could fit in the palm of your hand. Goodman's mouse lemur. Imagine stumbling upon the tiniest, most adorable creature you've ever laid eyes on, only to discover it's also one of the most endangered species on the planet. Meet the Goodman's mouse lemur, a newly discovered species of miniature primate that calls the lush forests of Madagascar home. They're so small that they could easily fit in the palm of your hand, and their bodies are no bigger than a fist or smaller than a tennis ball. What makes them stand out and seem a bit scary is their really big eyes, which are huge compared to their small bodies. Scientists can often spot them in the dark because their eyes glow, making them easy to see. But don't expect to find them during the day. They're nocturnal and super shy, which is probably why they stayed hidden from the world for so long. If you're trying to spot one, you'll need to be out there at night, looking for the gleam of their eyes. Sadly, despite their cute, tiny appearance, these little lemurs might already be endangered. Honestly, it might have been better for them if we hadn't even discovered them at all. But once the toothpaste is out of the tube, there's no putting it back. They're officially called Microcebus jonahi, named after a well-known primatologist who devoted their life to studying and protecting Madagascar's lemurs. Goodman's mouse lemurs have some interesting social habits that are pretty different from the usual negative stuff we associate with animal groups. For starters, they're not all about fighting. Sometimes groups of 2 to 4 lemurs of the same sex will gather together to sleep, and it's mostly to stay warm. Females usually stick with family members when they sleep together, but the males, not so much. They don't really seem to care who they're sleeping with. Now, here's something that really puts things into perspective. There are 107 species of lemurs, and nearly all of them are facing the threat of extinction. Unfortunately, their habitats are under constant threat, and the forests they call home are rapidly disappearing. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.